good people? What's going on? My name is Dominique.
And I am Dexter.
And in partnership with WYTV7, Christian Broadcasters Network, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. And we talking about control issues. Control issues. And, you know, the thing is about control. Matter of fact, let's just back up. Let's recap from the previous weeks.
Do that.
You know, we talked about unforgiving, the importance of not just forgiving others, but forgiving yourself.
True.
The process in doing that. And we also talked about commitment issues, you know, and now that brings us to control issues. And control issues is something that, you know, we don't even mention a whole lot, or we don't even recognize, right, in many ways.
Yeah, and I think that's largely because we don't see it as an issue.
Yeah.
You know, I think from a society standpoint, we kind of applaud it as a type A personality trait. Right. And so because, you know, we all want to be deemed as alpha males, you know, it's applauded. But I think if we're going to do a deep dive tonight, and in doing so, you know, we're going to point out, I think, some of the root issues about control issues.
Most definitely. We're going to get all up in it. And everyone who's viewing the broadcast right now, please feel free to comment, give some feedback, and share the video.
Definitely.
But, you know, you hit on something, man. You said, you know, we deem it as, you know, if we're alpha males, we want that sense of control.
Yeah.
But the thing is, how do we view the control? We view the control as power. It's an influence.
Yes.
But more so how we view it is power. And as men, when it comes to masculinity, man, if we feel like we lack that power, we feel like, you know what, we just feel less of a man, less powerful. If we feel like we don't have control in certain areas, we just feel like we just less powerful as a man. But I mean, control issues, they stem from so many areas. And I just really want the listeners right now to really broaden their mindset in their way of kind of looking at when it comes down to control issues. It can stem from, you know, fear of the unpredictable, fear of not knowing what may come about, fear, or the lack of trust. If we don't trust somebody, we're gonna keep that leash. You know what I'm saying? And so whatever it is, we don't want that experience to happen again. Trauma, and in some cases, those what we call control issues can be manipulation as well. But we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, hey, you all, please share this with your audiences. I'll be honest with you. For out of all the subject matters that we hit, I'm going to be very transparent and say that this is an issue that I really struggle with. You know, I can note that I've made some improvements in this area, but truth be told, this is something that I am constantly in the process of getting better in, and that's control issues. So we're gonna, you know, I'm going to use myself as a case study. To some degree tonight when I make some of my points, but definitely this is a very real thing, and it is a real issue.
Most definitely. But I think it's something that we really just need to. I think the good thing is you recognize that.
Sure.
And since you're recognizing that, you're more likely to really go through that process of understanding what is that really stemming from, and how does it really affect you. So I think that's big. I know in college, when I started my own organization, I think one of the biggest things with, that how it affected me is this leadership in general. And it affected me as in how I delegated certain tasks.
Yeah.
And because I lacked that trust, or I just, I was kind of a micromanager, that influenced me to react that way. And I really need to understand how that was affecting me, and how was that affecting others. For me, I was putting more on my plate.
Yeah.
And for other people, they wasn't developing because they wasn't having that experience that I was getting. So I know for me, when it came down to control issues, it was that perfection, that perfectionist mixed in with that lack of trust.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the lack of trust is huge. I'll be honest with you. I know that is the root that has been the root of my struggle with this particular subject matter. Trust, not from the standpoint of me not believing that the person can get the job done. Trust from the standpoint of I don't want to be dependent upon somebody. The idea of surrendering control in an area to somebody, it always made me uncomfortable. And so I would use maybe the idea or the reasoning that, well, they can't get it. I don't think they're going to get it done as well, or I'll just go ahead and do it myself. And what it would happen was I would find myself being burned out because I was trying to literally do everything as far as trying to get the task or whatever it was done.
Right.
And yeah, I could applaud myself by saying, yeah, I got it done. But the reality was many times it would have been a lot more efficient. It would have probably been a lot more better if it would have been a team effort. But because I was afraid of maybe this person dropping the ball, that I wouldn't allow them the opportunity to see if they could do it. And so in my mind, I was playing a thought that said, you know what, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. And because I don't think they're going to do it, I don't want to find myself having to answer for their mistake. And so I talked myself out of being able to trust them with something. And so, as you mentioned, the lack of trust is one of the huge components as it relates to control issues. And so I think I've gotten better with it, from the standpoint of recognizing that, hey, listen, God has endowed us all with a level of creativity. And while you might not do something the same way I do it, as long as we understand what the end goal is, I have to trust that you too are capable of doing it. If we're collaborating on something in you spoke to me and said, this person is capable because we agreed to partner with one another.
Yeah. And you know what? That's good. And when we say control issues, it's a very strong, term, you know what I'm saying? So many of us that may bring up or may talk about control issues will probably automatically dismiss it and say, that has nothing to do with me. I think everyone has some level of issue with when it comes down to control.
Definitely.
I think, it's good that you're just able to, like I keep saying, be able to recognize it. But when you recognize it, I think it's very important to understand what are the influences, what are the factors that's really influencing you to believe that I need this level of control.
Well, once again, fear is huge. And here's the thing. I think subconsciously, if one person lets us down, we make an indictment against everybody, that everybody's going to let us down. And so it may have been an offense or something, somebody came, a shortcoming from the past, but because of the pain of that shortcoming, I'm afraid of allowing myself to be back in that position again.
Right.
So I make an assumption that no one but me is able to get this done. And if I do trust you with it, it has to be to the letter of my instructions for me to be able to surrender it to you.
That's good. See, what I really like about these topics that we've been going over, man, is the fact that every time we talk about these topics, we're always diving deeper and really understanding that it's not just what it is. It's not what it's just called. It's much deeper than that.
Exactly.
So it's not just that you have the control issue. It was the fact that you're just worried about, what may come down if they don't get the job done. You get what I'm saying? Or do it correctly. And that's very, very important. So it's really a fear in that. And I think if we can really just take time out and really just identify that, recognize that, then we can start really making some strides in the right areas. We have to work on developing that awareness and that consciousness of those factors. When you're able to really identify those factors, then we can really, develop some coping strategies to really put in place and really implement that may counteract that behavior of how you're really communicating and treating those people that you was talking about.
Yeah, and I like what Karen said. She said some of the stuff could be a learned behavior. And it is, like I said, the human, we as humans, for the most part, we have a very low pain threshold, and so the pain of something, we say, hey, I'm not doing that again. Yeah. Whatever caused the pain, I'm not going to allow that to happen again.
Most definitely.
And so, if somebody messes up, we might multiply the offense so big that, like I said, I'm not ever allowing that to happen again. Yeah. And so now you kind of treat everybody with a long-handled spoon rather than, for the most part, giving each individual person the benefit of the doubt. Right. And we have to get back to the place where we do that. And one of the things that, as you mentioned, that I love about what we do with these subject matters is that we have to go to the root of the matter. We have to start getting to a place where we start to identify the source of these things that are going on inside of us. Mm-hmm. We could be very superficial and just say, hey, look, I got control issues. But do you want to get over the control issue? Exactly. Do you want to know what really serves as the reason why it's hard for you to trust people? Because let's call it what it is. You have an inability to trust people. Or, and so what does that stem from? Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, it could have been because somebody, disappointed you. And because they disappointed you before, you don't want to feel that way again. But like you said, you have to start implementing something in order to get over that hurdle.
Most definitely. I think when we also go through that process, we can also understand that it may not, it could be fear, yeah. But more specifically, it could be, that trauma that you went through, yeah. Maybe when you was younger. You probably had this experience where you just knew in this particular situation, this is how it worked out. And when was in a familiar situation, mm-hmm. you just responded to that based on the fear. But we know it was based upon that trauma. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important if we can identify that trauma that we really that we experienced. Whether we was a child or even older or maybe recently, then that can really help us with developing, maybe a process to even get through that trauma as well, which in turn would help us with the control issues.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I recognize as far as, once again, I'm being transparent tonight. I'm talking about Dominique is helping me work through my process. And so, and you all get to see it live on Facebook. But, one of the things that I know that I struggle with is the fact that it's hard for me from a team dynamic to say, hey, we as a team are doing this. Mm-hmm. I have a tendency to take ownership of the whole process rather than understanding that it's a team dynamic. And when you fail to recognize that it is a team working together to do something, you'll be overly critical of yourself. Right. And I noticed that in order for me to not feel overly critical, I have a tendency it's hard for, once again, to let go and disperse, a shared responsibility. Mm-hmm. But you can only be responsible for that which is, committed to your trust. And so that has been one of the things that I constantly remind myself, okay, Dexter, did you do everything that you could have done? And if you did, then whatever the results are, however things fall, then that's what it was. And so collectively, we can work on improving the process the next go around.
Most definitely. And you hear about this even when it comes down to relationships, this person is very controlling. Yeah. But why are they controlling? A previous relationship they probably was cheated on. Mm-hmm. A previous relationship they probably experienced something that just really just hurt them and made them feel terrible. Yeah. But the thing is, we have to understand that even with that lack of trust why are they really responding like that? Why are they always, asking for the phone? Why are they always, where you at? All these things. Mm-hmm. And, we have to really understand and be conscious of those anxieties, of the nervousness that we feel, all these emotions that we feel, and really just take time out to really list those emotions, list those fears, list those anxieties. That's really, and those are the things that's really, influencing
that behavior that we've been talking about. And listen, I know my wife is going to catch this later on, but and listen, Dexter is still working through this process. We all are, man. We all are. But my wife travels, and one of the things, and I'm not as bad. I'm not as bad with this anymore, but when she would travel, I'm like, okay, let me know when you make it there. Of course, that's understood. That's right. The norm. But then if she's going to a certain place, it's like, why are you going there? Why do you want to do that? And what I'm doing is I'm trying to control a situation when I'm not even there. Why can't I just trust the fact that, hey, you've already taken these things into consideration. You weighed them and you determine, hey, guess what? I want to do this. And so that's another control issue. And you got to be careful because at the end of the day, look, you are going to drive yourself crazy, and you're probably going to have a nervous breakdown when you're trying to control every situation. And here's one of the things I finally discovered. You're not really in control. There's very little you can control. I can't promise myself that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. That's good. But I'm trying to control the things of the next day. I can plan, and in planning, execute the plan, but I don't control the outcomes. I can plan for success, but the reality is that there's very little that is really under my control. Right. And I think as I start to really understand that, comprehend that, I'm able to let go of some of these control issues, and hopefully it will one day be all of these control issues. Yeah, man. So let's talk about the unpredictable. There's situations that we just don't know how it may turn out, and once again, we have to really focus on what are the things that we can control. Yeah. And I think when we can really focus on the things that we can control, then we'll focus on what do I need to do to prepare for this situation? Mm-hmm. What am I currently doing? What is required from me? And not just, this may happen, this may happen, this may happen. And what we'll start doing is, man, we'll start creating an outcome or a result in our mind. Yes. The possibility of everything. And all the possibilities can be negative. Mm-hmm. So since we're constantly allowing these negative outcomes to swirl in our minds, then we end up causing anxiety. Yeah. It's that fear that creeps in, and then it's that maybe sometimes what we'll do is when it comes down to control issues, we'll either exert that energy on other people, or we'll exert it on ourselves. Exactly. You get what I'm saying? So you can even have control issues when it really just stems to yourself. So what I mean is you can really just freeze yourself to where you don't you never step up to the plate. You can really freeze yourself to the point where you never just apply for that position. You never just go for that. You never just, strive for this. And it's at the point where you're always wasting time. Every opportunity is gone. Mm-hmm. Every opportunity just slides by. Every opportunity just gets away. So we have to really just understand that there's some things, like you just said, that we can control, and there's some things that we won't be able to control. And what you just hit on was the reality is that it's hard to enjoy life if you're trying to control everything because you let so much of life go by you. Right. And so we have to get to the place where we really understand I can only control what's in my control. Other people are outside of your control. If you think about it, all I can really do is make a suggestion. I can't force you to do anything. Apart from the fact that maybe you have kids, but at some point in time, they're going to grow and they're going to throw up the deuces to you. And so you don't even control them, but you can influence. And I think the posture and the right attitude to have is to be an intentional leader where you model what you want to see. And once again, you can influence by giving direction and you can give advice, but you have to trust that people will process it and then they'll make the decisions based for themselves. Yes, Vicky, free will. Yeah. And the thing is, with men, many of us were just not taught how to really express ourselves. Yeah. So I think when it comes down to the quote unquote control issues, man, even though we're not really taught how to express ourselves, that doesn't mean we're not going to express ourselves in some particular way. Unfortunately, in some ways,
we don't express ourselves in a way that's very healthy, not just for us, but for the people around us. So for many of us, we may shut down. And we're not knowing that because of what we are allowing to really happen, or what we really just focus on trying to control, we end up controlling ourselves by shutting down. And we don't really see it like that. We can actually control that. That's control issues when you just shut down, when you just freeze up. And the thing is, we have to really understand that process. And I don't really want to go through the process, but I think you have something.
Yeah, because you just said something, and it brought me to the mind that sometimes when we given directions and people ask questions, if we're not careful, we feel that they're challenging our manhood. And it's a dangerous thing when you associate your manhood with control. And I know a lot of men, once again, because we applaud the alpha type A personality. When people question, the decisions that we make, we take that as an affront on our manhood, and what we end up doing is we double down. And so you have to be careful about that.
Most definitely. We have to also identify what is control. You know what I'm saying? And when we are, because this is with us, when we work together, when men working with other men, we can kind of misidentify that person as being controlling, and really they're just really fulfilling their job. They're holding their responsibility. There's a difference between really delegating, what you need to be doing, what's the task at hand, and really just trying to control every move that you're doing. When we really understand the difference, then we won't take things so personal.
True.
And when we don't take things so personal, we'll understand that this person is really just doing their job, and they're not really trying to hurt us. Number one, when it comes down to the process, we really have to identify what is connected to the control issues. What is connected? So is fear connected? Is trauma connected? Is that thought of the unpredictable connected? And so forth. And then we have to understand what are the symptoms of the control issues. So when those things creep in or start to come in, how do you usually respond? Some people, they respond by being micromanagers. Some people respond by just not trusting the people around them. They respond by always asking, where you going? Where you at now? And so forth. You get what I'm saying? The next thing what are the factors or the influencers? What are the factors and influencers? And then once you understand all these things, then you can start developing some coping strategies to counteract those symptoms. So that's those are the 4 steps within that process.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And once again, I'll allude to something that Karen said earlier. Some of these things are learned behavior. Oftentimes we haven't learned how to effectively lead. We're not saying that when you're supervising something or when you're in a leadership position, there is a measure of control that you have. Once again, you delegate, you do certain things. But the truth of the matter is that there's an attitude and a spirit behind which you do it. Just because you're in a leadership position doesn't mean you're a tyrant. You're not a authoritarian per se. Where you're striking the whip. You want to be balanced in your leadership position, and so having an awareness of what is going on is not the same as being per se, having a controlling spirit.
Most definitely.
And so once again, some of these things are learned, and you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, what I'm exhibiting, is this the type of person, type of man that I want to be? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing it, you can still take it upon yourself to make the changes. And that's been my process. One of the things that I've been diligent within myself to say, okay, Dexter, you have some traits, you have some things that you need to clean up. You're a good leader, but being a controller is not always good. You're going to have to learn to trust other people, trust that they're just as capable in those areas as well. And that's how you're really going to get traction. That's really how you're going to advance well beyond where you're currently at, by taking on the mindset that as a team, we can all excel. We can all excel together.
Most definitely. And I think that really creates a release or a calmness within yourself. Something like Karen said, that security within yourself, because you understand, you get to that point where you finally just accept the fact that it's okay that I can't control everything. It's okay that I don't know what may happen. It's okay that, that other people are helping out. You get what I'm saying? It's okay to help, but you don't have to take control. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a good mindset to have. But if anything from this, I really want people just to dive deeper into just the topic of control, having control issues. Really have a further understanding of really what's going on with your behavior, being more aware and more conscious of how you're responding to these situations and so forth. And this is going to really help you get to that point that you really want to get to. And
I want to share something. Karen has been dropping some gems, and I appreciate it. She said that we've been taught not to depend on anybody but yourself, which shows the seed of not being able to trust. And the reality is, if you think about it, listen, if God wanted you to be solely dependent upon yourself, you would be the only person here. And so the fact that there's a earth filled with people lets you know that community and partnership is big with God. And so we're going to have to learn how to work with one another in order to really demonstrate the kingdom of God.
Yeah, and I'll just end off on this because we just keep getting some more points. One of the statements that I hope that we can really diminish is when we say, trust no one. I think that's a very just problematic statement to make when we just say trust no one. I think whoever's saying that is one, either very hurt or two, just misunderstand the meaning of trust. You cannot be effective in this world without trusting anyone. You have to trust people in this world. The question is, like we said in previous videos, how are you going to trust that person? And not just how are you going to trust that person, but what level of trust are you going to have in that person? And if we can just really just understand that it's a process and everything, it's a process of understanding who to trust, then we are more likely not to get hurt, or more likely to actually find out who we can trust. It ain't just who we shouldn't trust, who we can trust. Because I believe there's people out there that that's meant for us to trust. There's people out there that are meant for us to be connected to some level, to some degree. And I really do believe if we can really just dive deep in these areas, I really like this video. And I really do believe it's going to help some people in so many areas, because whether we know it or not, or conscious or not, so many of us have control issues and trust issues in so many different areas.
Definitely. Hey, well, listen, y'all, if this video has been a blessing to you, do us a favor, like it, give it some hearts and thumbs up, and also definitely share it with your audiences.
Most definitely. And we do have an exciting event coming up. You want to talk more about that event?
Listen, so this Saturday, the 29th of September, at University of Phoenix, 11 o'clock, is it 10 o'clock, excuse me, 10 o'clock, University of Phoenix, we have Rediscovering the Lost You. And so this is for men. And one of the things that really spearheaded me and Dominique pursuing this thing called When Men Open Up is that we want to help men overcome the issues that we often struggle with. And we struggle with those issues in silence. And so this Saturday, we're going to talk about some things that are really hindering men from really discovering who they are. I think we take on a carbon copy of what society says we should be, and we miss out on fulfilling who God has called us to be. So we're going to equip men with tools on this Saturday. And if you are in the area, if you know somebody in the greater CSRA, we would encourage you to invite those men out. This is going to be powerful. I'm telling you, I feel it. I'm excited about it. And there's some things that I know that we're going to offer that is really going to be a game changer for the men in the audience.
Most definitely. If you want more information, you can easily go to our Facebook page, When Men Open Up. You'll see more information on there. You can also go to Eventbrite, easily just search Rediscovering the Lost You, and you'll see it. And if you have any questions about anything, you can feel free to inbox us on our Facebook page, or you can email us at whenmenopenup@gmail.com. But once again, we really appreciate our supporters and everyone for tuning in every week. And please continue to share the video and let someone know about our podcast. And once again, this is When Men Open Up. My name is Dominique Bond.
And I'm Dexter Peckers Jr.
And we are out. We love you.